The Saskatchewan real estate market has a very low housing supply right now. What does this mean for buyers and sellers in the province? This week, we sit down with realtor Josh Boettcher and go through all of those details. Hope you enjoy.
This is the Saskatchewan Real Estate Podcast, the show that highlights Saskatchewan real estate. Looking to buy your first house, your next investment property? Subscribe to never miss an episode. Here's your host, Ron Quaroni.
Hello and welcome back to the Saskatchewan Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Ron Quaroni, here on the Saskatchewan Real Estate Podcast. We love to touch on Saskatchewan real estate and what is happening in the housing market. Don't forget, as you're going through this video, if you're finding value and enjoying the content, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to never miss our episodes that come out every single Monday. Here to help us touch on today's topic, we have past guest Josh Boettcher, Saskatoon realtor, and we are going to touch on the low supply of housing in Saskatchewan. Josh, just before we get into it, for anyone who doesn't know, just give us a brief introduction of yourself before we get into the interview.
Thanks a million for having me on the podcast again, Ron. My name is Joshua Boettcher. I own Moulin, Boettcher and Associates with Coldwell Banker Signature in Saskatoon. We're a full-service real estate office operating out of Saskatoon and surrounding area, and we also service Prince Albert and most northern communities.
So you're a really cool person to chat about this too, Josh, because you do operate in more than just one center. And just anecdotally, what I'm seeing right now is that there's just not a lot of supply on the market anywhere in Saskatchewan. Like specifically here in Saskatoon, I know when I chat to different people that there's just not a lot of supply on the market. But does this cover over to other communities where real estate is being sold? And can you kind of take us through a brief summary of what you're seeing on the real estate market right now?
Well, you know what? That's a tough one to answer. And the main reason why is because we've got a couple of larger city centers that are a little more predictable. But then we've got the smaller peripheral rural communities where they can look like statistical anomalies or outliers just because they are so small. There could be a massive indifference for 1 year versus another year, and there could be no real correlating factor. So we have to be careful when we separate it out region by region. So looking at it for the most part, I mean, sales across the province are down year over year about 21.2%. New listings are down 12.5%, and inventories down about 4.1% year over year across the province.
Wow.
Being that Saskatchewan had just over 1,200 sales in April, that's a 21% decline, and we got to be careful with that. We had 2021, which was a crazy year for sales. We're actually sitting just slightly below the 10-year average, so we're still on pace for fairly normal. That indicates to me that we're probably coming to a bit more of a balanced market than we've previously seen.
Okay. And for these specific markets that we're talking about, if we talk about Saskatoon and Regina, do you have any stats for us that kind of tell us where we are as far as inventory? Are we low on housing in these different centers, Josh?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you look at across the province, so year-to-date sales levels improved in Melfort, Prince Albert, North Battleford, Yorkton, and Weyburn. Inventory levels improved over previous months across all regions except for two, Humboldt and Weyburn. So if we extrapolate the data a little bit and look a little bit further, we can look at year-to-date sales. Pretty much every area has had something of a decline in inventory, except for three. Melfort region has seen an 18% increase in inventory. Prince Albert's seen a 3% increase in inventory, and Yorkton has also seen a 3% increase in inventory. The rest of them have seen on average about a negative 2% decline.
Okay, so it's not massive, but if I'm remembering correctly, we were also low on inventory in 2022 as well. So is that accounting for that as well, Josh? Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, so year over year, we're down 1% still from last year. So our inventory levels are still, a little bit frightening.
So it means we're still kind of continuing on in the seller's market. And so if you have a home to sell, it's a good opportunity, or even if you hold it for a little bit longer, there's probably still going to be an opportunity for you to make a good dollar on that. But if you're a buyer out there and you're searching for a deal, maybe it's a little harder for you.
Recent trends have indicated that we are coming closer to a balanced market, specifically in Saskatoon, but I wouldn't count fully on that. We hit the time of year where, albeit it was later than usual, the snow melted and buyer demand will increase again. there's lack of inventory, and there's still a backstock of buyers, I wouldn't be surprised to see things crunch down a little bit more again.
Okay, so when we're looking at the numbers right now, we're low on inventory. And one thing I did want to kind of get your perspective on this was, if we have a low inventory amount right now and we're growing as a province and we're having more household formations, what is this going to do? So I quickly wanted to bring this to the table. Saskatchewan's population reached 1.2 million as of January 1st, 2023, an increase of just about 10,000 people from October 1st of last year. Saskatchewan's population increased 0.8% over the previous quarter, fourth in percentage change among the provinces. Alberta had the highest growth at 1%, and Saskatchewan's population increased by around 30,000 people over the past year, representing 2.5% increase in our population. So with all of this, I think we can anecdotally say that there's not enough houses being built to accommodate all of these people. Now, just as we have different real estate markets from Saskatoon to Toronto, it's also the same here in Saskatchewan. Different communities have different things happening economically. But on the whole, I kind of look at that and say, we have a shortage of houses and there's nothing really structurally being done to address that. Is that something that you would kind of correlate with, Josh? Or is that something you would agree with?
Absolutely. I mean, my overall sentiment is that if you don't own a house, you should absolutely buy one right now. The next 7 years, in my opinion, looks to see Saskatchewan's economy grow, and it looks to see housing prices increase, rental prices increase, and I don't think there's any way around it. You touched on the fact that, you know, we're growing substantially as a province. You know, almost 30,000. I think it was 29,000 and change last year is what we grew by. Those are big numbers for, you know, little old Saskatchewan. Canada itself, I think, if I'm not mistaken, let in 432,000 new immigrants last year. And I think we're slated to let in over 500,000 this year. So you do the math on those numbers, you'll quickly understand that's 1 million people. The reality is, in the next 7 years, we have to build close to 6 million houses to keep up pace with our current marketplace. And people often forget that builders carry interest rate rises the same as consumers do. And what that means is that you're probably going to see a lot of builders take a step back, and maybe the bigger ones won't be building 350 homes a year. They might be building 150, 200, 225 homes a year. So I think you couple the population growth with the raise in interest rates, we're going to be hard pressed to build 3 million homes in the next 7 years, let alone 6 million. Another key factor is, I mean, immigration itself. You said it, we grew by 30,000 people. Saskatchewan itself, you know, I mean, we've got a wealth of resources: agricultural, potash, uranium, critical minerals, oil. There's a lot of job security here. I think we're slated by more than one survey and more than one different forum as the number one place for mining venture and the number one place for petroleum venture. So those are big accolades to get. And I don't think the world is blind to that. We're going to see an increase in population more so next year and the following years for the next 7 years than we've seen in the last 10. I think no matter which way you slice it, Ron, housing prices are going up.
Right. And those are not low-paying jobs that those people are taking. If you're talking about mining, oil and gas, even if you go, you know, farther north, we're talking about diamonds, uranium.
Yes.
These are all well-paying jobs, and they're being, you know, housed by people who, a lot of them want to settle down and live here because you can actually afford a house. And from a mortgage qualification standpoint, these folks can afford a lot of home. Like, it's just a general guideline for most people. Just take your income and you times it by 4. So if you have a dual income family of $200,000, because one's a nurse and one works at the mine, you know, you're looking at a purchase price of $800,000. And we are still well below that for a lot of our inventory. And as we have more of these jobs come online, I do feel it's going to just increase the pressure on those housing prices.
I would absolutely agree, Ron. I mean, Saskatchewan has such a robust fiscal economic policy, such a strong agricultural sector. There's just too many good factors provincially, economically for us, that it just tells me that there's no possible way that we're going to see a decline. And if we could give buyers one piece of advice, it'd be to get into the market while you still can.
So yeah, I'll kind of throw it to you here just to end it off here with two last thoughts on this. One is, what are you communicating to buyers right now? I know you're a little biased being a realtor, but what are you? Yeah, there's a slight incentive for you to tell people that, hey, now's a great time. But I think there is a lot of truth to the fact that now is a great time to be buying a property. But just give us your take on why that is.
Well, everything mentioned thus far, it just tells me that, I'm sure lots of people have seen their parents that went through the last boom of real estate. They all made lots of money on it. And I'm sure that nobody our age would mind being in on the second one. I think that we're all going to see a massive increase in our investment dollars. And also, if you're renting, this is not on an economic standpoint or a fiscal standpoint. When you buy a home, at least you still have pride of ownership. You have a place to call your own, a place to hang your hat. And that in and of itself is worth its weight in gold. I've rented and I've owned a home. I would much rather live in the home I own 10 times out of 10. In light of the aforementioned circumstances, I think that individuals who haven't embarked on this journey, they should probably start thinking about it.
All right. And now I'll give it to you from the other side. If you're with a person who has a house right now, and are you telling them to hold on to this home for as long as they can to take advantage of this appreciation and value? Are you saying, no, like the party's going to end 2 or 3 years from now and you want to sell before? What's your messaging to sellers right now, in light of this low housing supply?
Well, there's macro and there's micro trends. I mean, if you're in a position where you want to sell or you need to sell, now is theoretically still a good time to do it historically. Prices have maintained. They're still quite high. You can get a good dollar figure. The problem is replacing that home. We're in a tight market space. So if you're just selling to sell, remember, you've got to replace that. And it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be tough to find a quality property. And if you do, your chances are you're going to have to pay a premium for it. So sell if you have to. Buy if you don't already own one.
I like it. Awesome. Last word to you, Josh. If someone is in the market in Saskatoon, just run us through those other communities that you operate in. And if they're looking for a little bit more information about buying or selling in those communities, how can they get in touch with you?
So Moulin, Boettcher and Associates, my team, like I said, operates Saskatoon area, Prince Albert area, Shelburne area, and Lake Country. So if you want to get a hold of us, you can contact me by my cell phone number, 306-747-9388. Or you can just search us up online, saskatoonrealestate.com.
Awesome. Thanks for your time, Josh. I really appreciate your insight on the market. And I think we are heading for a really interesting time in Saskatchewan. I don't know if we've ever really had a real estate boom here, but there are a lot of factors that are kind of pushing towards that Saskatchewan is a really strong real estate market, even from the sense that we are fairly steady. We don't see the big price decreases that these other markets have seen. And so it's going to be really fascinating over the next 7 years as we see this commodity cycle take over. And we are very much a commodity-based economy. So it's an exciting time for Saskatchewan real estate. And yeah, I'm sure we're both really happy to be a part of that.
Big time. You know what the funniest part of all this is? We could be completely wrong, but I don't think we are.
I don't think we are either. So we'll see in 7 years. We'll watch this and see how it ages.
Sounds good, buddy.
Awesome. Have a great one, Josh. Thanks for coming on.
You too.
Thanks for checking out this episode of the Saskatchewan Real Estate Podcast. If you liked this episode and found some value, please like this video and make sure to subscribe to never miss our weekly episodes that come out every single Monday. If you're a home buyer looking to purchase your very first property in Saskatchewan, I would love to be a part of the process. Make sure to check out my website and mortgage application in the description of the show. Until next week, my name is Ron Quaroni, your Saskatchewan mortgage professional. Bye for now.